Well, we are back again for another episode of Grip Wild Men Who Matter podcast. We got a special treat for you guys today, but before we get rolling, I want to see how my man Brando's doing. How you doing, B?
What's up, man? It is vacation week for me, and I probably should have told you that before right now on the microphone, but I'm headed out of town tomorrow with the family.
Yeah, I'm not sure I approved that, man. What does vacation week even mean, man?
In order for you to approve me going on vacation, we would have to have a process for which you would have to approve.
Well, I hope you have fun. I'll be working while you vacationing, if that's even a word. But hey, guys, we're in a little bit different place today. It's pretty cool. We're excited to bring you what we're bringing today. It may sound a little bit different because we're actually in a high school, which is pretty cool because today we're hanging out with Briarwood Christian School, which is a school in Birmingham, Alabama. We're hanging out with their athletic director, who is also the head of the high school fishing team. His name is Jay Matthews. And the reason we're sitting with Jay is just his organization, his team has done very well in the past couple of years in high school fishing. One of their teams won the national championship last year in 2018. Their team won the state championship this year. And it's just really cool it's close to home for us, and it's cool just to kind of sit back and watch them as you know, we have a passion for fishing, at least I do. Brandon's still trying to figure it out. He still thinks duck hunting is the way to eternal life, but we're still working on helping him understand that Jesus was a fisherman, not a hunter.
We're going to save that for next week's episode where I break that down for you. But Coach Matthews, man, how are you?
Man, I'm great. Man, thank you for coming out to Briarwood, and what an exciting thing you guys are doing here.
Well, Coach, this is exciting just around Birmingham, and for those of us that pay attention to the outdoors and fishing and hunting, just to know that right here, close to home, we've got some incredible talent and some pretty cool success. So thanks for having us out. And just wanted to talk a little bit today, kind of how this thing started, because I know we joked about it earlier when Steve and I were in school. We were skipping class to go fishing. There was not a sanctioned event. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And we still get a lot of head scratching. People go, how do you even coach fishing? Isn't it all luck? But yeah, about 8 years ago, we actually had a student here, Jake Turnbloom, who called me and said, Coach, we hear you're coming back to Briarwood. Would you start a fishing team? And I just said, sure. No clue what that meant. But here we are 8 years later, and this has been quite a ride. I tell you what, it's never could have imagined it from the early days. Our first tournament, we did not catch a fish. I mean, we blanked out all of the boats down at Lake Martin years ago, and all of our guys, I was kidding them about being stocked pond fishermen, and you guys didn't know how to fish on the river, and I gave them a good chewing out,
That's hilarious.
About it. But, I'll be honest with you, now our guys are very talented, and they teach me more than I could ever teach them.
Man, that's so good. And, I want to dive right in, Jay, and this idea. Look, you're 8 years in, and we talk about the why a lot at Grip Wild. And I just want to kind of hear, maybe, and a lot of times in our, the things we find ourselves in our life and our pursuit and seasons that we're in, we don't necessarily always know like how we got there or why God called us to start it. And it sounds very, very similar there that there was an opportunity, you were available, you were willing, as we talk about, you were willing to get in motion. But now that you're 8 years in and you've kind of been able to see it unfold, what's your why there? Like, I mean, obviously it's going to take a lot of time commitment. So what's your drive on that?
And I think that's the most important question. I mean, I actually take the month of May every year. I call it Mission May, and just reformulate in my mind, what is God's calling on my life? What am I supposed to do? And it's not just my vocation. It's my family. It's my wife. It's my children. But it's been obvious to me God's primary call is just to love Him and love others in my life. But there's a secondary call for me, which is my life has always been around students, loving them, talking to them about where they are, mentoring them. Not done it perfectly, but that's been my profession. And I've done it all different ways. I've been a youth pastor. I've coached golf. I've coached football for a number of years. I'm back coaching football again this year. But for me, coaching fishing, I think has been the most rewarding or enjoyable of all of those things of fleshing out what that primary call is. And I spent 7 years as dean of discipline here, which is the same calling. It's just a different type of deal where it's that tough love and having to actually do some very tough things. But that's my why. I'm called to take students from around the age of 14 and 18 and walk with them and hopefully turn them out on a path that stays out of the two ditches as much as possible,
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have where did so obviously you had to, when someone said fishing team, you're like, huh, that even exists?
Yeah.
But did you grow up fishing? Is there's this lane of a soul tie or enjoyment there for you?
There is. I mean, one of my great memories is the first time my dad taught me how to throw a bait caster and I hooked a fish at East Lake Park.
So good.
I remember actually being 5 years old and catching a big old giant brim at Lake Purdy with my mom and dad.
That's awesome.
And then Kenny Frame, a friend of mine, used to take me to Logan Martin in high school. But that was always leisure, and it still is for me. I'm a leisure fisherman. I'm not a competitive fisherman.
Yeah.
And people need to understand there is a difference in the two. And it could drive you crazy if you actually got into competitive fishing and think it's just kind of fun leisure fishing. The two are different. They're similar. The enjoyment's very similar, but yeah, it's been an 8-year learning process on that end.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we talked about it just last week, Brandon, about how even though there's that love and that passion there, and even for me when I was fishing competitively, it was definitely where I was supposed to be, and it was definitely, I was in the right lane, and it was very connected to my passion and my soul, but it was hard, and sometimes it's hard. And so there is a huge difference between leisurely fishing and competitive fishing, because though it is amazing, it can be very challenging mentally, physically, all of the above on your body. So I've definitely lived that life and can attest to that.
And it's a 2 or 3 year process. We have a club the kids sign up for and they get a jersey and all, but to actually become a varsity travel guy. And then real quick story, Aaron Martins is an elite pro. He's one of our parents. His daughter is on our fishing team. And some of our guys have gotten to fish with him when he's serious. And how fast he fishes, but on purpose, no wasted casts.
Yeah.
He's out casting them 3-1, and they just come back. There's a level of a professional fisherman that our guys still can't grasp exactly what that is. So it's just like anything else. There's certain levels and expertise. That's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I love what you just said there. You made a statement about him on purpose. And we love hearing statements like that, because just this whole idea behind men who matter, and it's simply just being in motion, but even more so about being in motion, it's intentionality. Right. And as you mentioned, and you painted a great picture of how Aaron Martins is everything he does is very fast and on purpose. Talk to us a little bit about how you spend time maybe helping your students understand what intentionality looks like to become better at not only what they do, but who they are.
Well, a few years ago, I really feel like the thing I needed to make sure that I was doing was not play acting in front of them, because I would not be presenting an authentic front. So the very first thing that students need to be able to see with me is that without Christ, it's impossible. And even with Christ, life is full of infinite number of distractions, and our hearts really would rather be distracted and off course. So for me, it's a daily repentance, and it's hard to understand that. But I always tell all of my Sunday school classes, all my kids, same thing. I start each day with Galatians 2:20. I've been crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life I live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Sounds great. So I wake up every morning. All right, Lord, I'm yours. I'm going to do everything you say. But at the end of each day, my prayer is always the same. It's Romans 8. Therefore, now there's no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. So I don't do it right every day. In fact, I don't really ever have a perfect day. But the beauty of the gospel is, guess what? I get up tomorrow and begin again. And so they have to see me in my failures. They have to see me struggling to do it right. They have to see me that the fact that Christ is a part of my life, it's not just a tag on, And it's hard at a Christian school because it's built in. I could easily go about my job, and I'm a professional Christian, got chapels and stuff programmed in, but if it's not real, it's not going to last, you know.
You know, you mentioned earlier when we were getting started, just there's something about being on a boat with somebody, just that environment, it's an incubator, you know, for influence. And that's one of the things that's big for us. And that's why we love this outdoors tie-in, because for us, that's our incubator. That's when we go into these worlds, whether it's duck hunting or it's in the fishing boat, like we kind of open this door to another place in our soul. And so you're seeing that with your students, the folks on this team. And what kind of atmosphere, what have you gained? What kind of growth have you seen come out of that moment as opposed to where they spend the rest of their time here in the school, right?
Yeah.
What differentiates the two, and how do you see that?
Well, we have a saying around here, kids come alive between 3 to 5, you know. And so they may be, you know, they may have a class or two that doesn't quite float their boat, you know. That's how we all remember that. But when you are being involved in helping a student get better at their passion, and they know you're going to help them, they know you're invested in them, it provides the greatest opportunity to intersect their faith with real life living, you know. And they need to know that God invented the thrill of roller coaster rides. He knows the thrill of bass fishing. He invented it. He created those things, you know. And so there's great joy and adventure in living that way. This is a father who loves them as much fun as we would have taking our kids out, teaching them how to fish. God is enjoying that moment as well. And so when you're outside, you can't help but notice the beauty of creation. I asked them to stop and watch sunrises and sunsets. You know, we take time to look at the fish. You know, I mean, we all miss that. And then joking around, telling stories, making mistakes, going through the drama of life. I mean, that's just what life is. And that's one of the great joys of my life.
Yeah, it seems like it, again, we never got an opportunity to really experience high school fishing and or college. I mean, I think 2 years after I graduated from college is when the whole college thing started. And so it sounds like it's just a great opportunity to mesh that leisurely fishing and the competitiveness and begin to teach them that transition. And if you think about it, it's really a beautiful transition of even life, because you go from, as you know, pre-adulthood, or you know, especially a lot of your seniors graduating, kind of taking a step into college and into beginning stages of adulthood. You go from this leisurely lifestyle as children and as adolescents to life's competitive.
That's right.
Like it's a constant competition of survival, of remaining true to yourself, and making sure you understand who you are as your identity, and your identity in Christ and not in the world. So it's kind of a beautiful picture on the boat of leisurely fishing to competitive fishing. You have an opportunity to begin painting that picture of this childhood life to this adult life, and what it takes to survive and not only survive but thrive and live a life of fulfillment in that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you know, part of making life work, and I think the scriptures indicate this, of just staying childlike. You know, that's where heaven. So we're not too sophisticated to enjoy life. At the same time, though, it's not idealistic. God has ordained in your life certain celebratory days.
Yeah.
Cheer it up, man. So high five, hug, pump. Don't be too cool or casual to care.
Yeah.
He's also ordained, I think, some dark days, days that you're going to need somebody else to even help you make it through.
Yeah.
And then the rest in between are just kind of normal type stuff. But that's not a boring day. It's not even an insignificant day. It's a day of meaning. But if every day were a celebration, that would lose its appeal. If every day were dark, you couldn't make it. So that's kind of the up and downs and pace of life that's going to carry us right to that final breath type thing. You know?
Coach, you said something a minute ago that really just caught my attention. And you were referencing being in a boat and building these relationships with these kids. And you said something. You said, when you're investing in somebody in their passion and they know it, it'll cause them to push further. It'll cause them to chase that fire.
That's right.
And I think that's so strong, and that's such a huge thing, because think about in your life, my life, our life, where I've had those people walk into my life, run beside me. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that they wanted more from me. They were on my side. They were pushing me. Those were the seasons of life where I grew the most. But I don't want to run by that and miss the flip side of the coin, which is the life value that you get out of those moments, right?
Yes,
the moments
no
where
doubt.
you're investing in somebody else, it's not emptying, it's filling, right? Because
Right.
you're walking away with that blessing.
Yeah. And I would be lying if I said that I don't get down and discouraged in my job, because sometimes you feel like you're a guy selling something that no one's interested in. There's that constant pull. But even when I get to the end of my rope, the Lord is always gracious to bring a kid to me at the right time. It's rare, and say, "Hey, coach, when you checked in me the other day, that meant a lot. Thank you." Well, that picked me up. That was the encouragement I needed. And so this generation is so interesting because of the cell phones and social media and all. It's so easy to be self-focused, to be in the boat just by yourself. It's all about me. Thing I love what we've done, but by pushing team concepts and learning they can grow together and help each other out, it's made all the difference in the world. And the bottom line is, by yourself, all the trophies and accolades, that doesn't love you back. It's just empty. I mean, these trophies are sitting here, they're pretty to look at, but they're nothing. But the people loving you back because you've loved them, together, that creates an energy. It creates life on mission. It's what God designed us to be running on.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk a lot about this difference between success and significance, and how your success, your trophies, your accolades, they die with you, but your significance can live on forever. And how do we continue to be intentional about helping, especially young men, understand what it looks like to live a life of significance? But also I want to jump back to what you said, Brandon, because this could be I think our great challenge. It was an amazing statement. When you pour into someone who's living out their passion, it makes them, or you encourage their passion. What did you say?
So when you're investing in someone and they know it, and you're investing in their passion, it makes them push harder to chase after that thing.
Absolutely. And so just to think about the idea of, men, we talk about what it looks like to be a man who matters. And I think our challenge for you today is consider that. Even if you see a young man who's passionate about something, even if you're not passionate about it, if you just be willing to intentionally pour into them, encourage them, speak into them, there's no telling what that will do for them. Because again, we talk about all the time that a huge step in your pursuit of fulfillment is connecting your passion to your purpose. And when you do, you'll begin to live a life of significant impact. So men, if you see opportunities to speak into a young man who's passionate about something, you may be playing a pivotal part to them connecting it to why they exist, which would be the next generation of impactful men in our communities.
And I want to layer on top of that. Don't get hung up in a downhill relationship, right? Like you're listening to this day, you're surrounded by other men, friends, guys on your level. Like you can be an encourager to those guys just as much as you can in some kind of mentoring relationship, right? And so start there. Start with what's closest. Who are the people closest to you that need a word of encouragement? You know what they're passionate about. You hang out with them all the time. You guys talk about the same stuff, and you're probably passionate about a lot of the same stuff. How can you push the people around you further after their passion and chasing after their purpose?
Absolutely, if we're honest, that's when you begin to experience this word like legacy and living a life of legacy, because your legacy will live on after you, and your legacy will not have anything to do with what you achieved in your life. It will be who you added value to and who you poured into. And Jay, I just want to say, man, you are living out a legacy right now. You are being a man who matters because you are in motion by simply being intentional and pouring into and adding value to people. And those people are the young men of this fishing team and this school. I mean, you're the athletic director here at Briarwood, so you really get an opportunity to make a difference in a lot of young men and women. And so that's exciting. So you're being a man who matters, and I just want to encourage you guys to begin thinking about, where does my legacy stand? And how do I intentionally pursue leaving a legacy? And it has nothing to do with your talent, your treasures, your abilities, your experience. It has all to do with how you're adding value to people?
I will say that I get to work with people who model that, and so it encourages me. And then as I was brought to Christ, and the word we use is discipled, but that's kind of a catchy term.
That's a churchy word.
Yeah, it's a churchy word. But basically it's like, I'm going to walk with you. And Paul said, live your life like me. I'm a pattern, and so it gets all the way back to the early stages of the church,
Well, you're doing a great job, Coach. And man, I appreciate you letting us come out
Sure.
and check out the trophies and talk a little bit about fishing, because anytime we get to talk about outdoor stuff is a good day in my book. And so, man, wish you guys all the best this summer coming up for the national championship. Can't wait to keep following along and see what happens.
Well, again, Jay, I just want to thank you. And man, as cool as it is to see these trophies, national championship and your state championship, and even you wrote a cool book called Winning Edges Fishing. But if all we ever do is pursue success and we lose sight in significance and being a man of significance in our life, we will be empty. And I see that in you, Jay. So I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to be able to constantly meet men who are pursuing significance and doing so not only in a godly way, in a biblically structured way, but in a way that's going to impact generation after generation after generation. And one day these trophies will be covered in dust, but I believe they will remember Jay Matthews because of how he valued the students that God blessed him with and had an opportunity to spend time with while you were here on earth. So that's awesome, man. So I'm glad we got to spend some time together. So until next time, just like Jay Matthews, you are a man who matters, and don't forget it. We'll see you guys next week.